A lot, and I mean a lot of people say that Frieren is one of the best anime ever created. Point blank, period. The GOAT, the top of the top, the peak, the number one anime ever made. But of course, there's people that hate it. So I'm here to check out, why do people hate Frieren? Why? Let's hear it.
Why do people dislike popular things? While at first this may seem like a simple question, the more I thought about it, the more I felt like a detective with a wall of photos and red string in front of me. Because it turns
Okay.
out there's a lot of different reasons why people don't like popular media. I think a wonderful example to look at when exploring this idea is Frieren Beyond Journey's End, which is incredibly convenient given the fact that I have a weekly series where I talk about that show. Welcome to Exploring Frieren. My name is Pei, and today we're talking about why some people hate the new #1 anime.
Yeah, why?
An
Let's
incredibly
hear it.
important asterisk to clarify right away is that this
I
claim
gotta
that
hear
Frieren
it.
is the #1 show in anime is based off of one specific criteria: its ranking on the popular forum MyAnimeList. In
Okay.
reality, the debate surrounding the #1 show in anime is incredibly complex and super subjective. I think there's numerous shows that people could make a case for that have
Yo, I'm glad Yu Yu Hakusho is above
complex
Dragon
and
Ball Z.
super
Like, as a big
subjective. I think
Bro,
there's
as a huge Dragon Ball
numerous
Z fan, to see that Yu Yu Hakusho is above DBZ, that makes my heart feel good.
shows that people could make a case for that
Ghost in the Shell being above Yu Yu Hakusho is even better than that. All right, bro, let's go. Top five, baby. And then to see that Princess Mononoke somehow took top three? Really? Top three? Oh, wait, this is 90s. My fault. My fault. I'm over here, like, bro, I'm over here geeking out, bro. I'm geeking out, bro. Okay, so Vinland Saga number two. Oshinoko number three, Jujutsu Kaisen number four. You know what? I seen Vinland Saga. Absolutely one of the greatest animes ever made, point blank, period. Yes, absolutely. To see that it's number two is honestly, I'm glad to see that because I would expect more people to say JJK is better than Vinland Saga, to be honest. But to see that Vinland Saga is actually higher, amazing. Number two, even more amazing. Now, Frieren, for me, I literally only seen episode one, and I was like, "This is cool. I get the premise, the concept. I think it's nice. It just couldn't suck me in, and I get it. There's a rule: watch all the way up to episode three. So I plan on giving it a chance later on. Like right now in my life, guys, I'm honestly not really doing anything besides going outside and making videos. So maybe one day if I ever start watching anime or something like that again, I'll check it out. But until then, I'm just checking it out through like these videos, right? So I can get the premise on why everybody else is saying like this is amazing. So I can go in on my own and say, huh, do I agree? Do I disagree? What do I think? Right? You guys already know I like thinking for myself. But besides that, it is cool to see that Vinland Saga is number two and this anime is number one. Now on the 90s to see Cowboy Bebop number two, Princess Mononoke number three. That's bro, I wouldn't honestly, I didn't expect that many people to really love Bebop and Mononoke more than they like DBZ or Yu Yu Hakusho. That's awesome. That's awesome to see. But I've never really been a Neon Genesis Evangelion type of guy. I've seen it a couple times, but it's just the main protagonist. It just wasn't for me. But Ghost in the Shell top five. Let's go, baby.
have
That's a
much
win.
better
That's a
qualifications
win.
for anime's best show than Frieren. But
Mm.
specifically on my anime list, there's been one show that has dominated
Full Metal
the
Alchemist.
#1
Let's go.
position for as long as I can remember. A show that's renowned, critically acclaimed,
The
popular, and
GOAT.
generally speaking held in high regard. Full Metal Alchemist Brother.
Yeah, brother.
And
I'm
while
about to
this show
say.
has been dethroned a couple times, it's always been a flash in a pan. It's never lasted
Mm.
very long. That is until
Mm.
now. Frieren is sitting above Full Metal Alchemist by a huge margin. And while
Okay.
the comparison isn't exactly fair, given the fact that Frieren is a running series with one season and Full Metal Alchemist is a finished product, I think there's still
That's
a
pretty
lot
big.
to learn in analyzing
That's
why
pretty
Frieren
big.
has maintained that #1 position when so many other shows have failed to dethrone Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Mm.
Okay, a quick outline. This video is going to be broken up into 3 major parts.
Man, what?
First, using general terms explaining why Frieren has taken over the #1 spot on my anime list.
Okay.
Second, exploring a couple major reasons why people dislike popular media. And finally, the third part is going to be exploring why what makes Frieren so good also gives people the tools to hate it.
Huh.
Let's explore what it takes for any piece of media to hold the #1 position
Okay.
when it comes to
Let's hear it.
online, community-based reviews. It's so far from a perfect system. but I do think it's one of the few relatively objective measurements of a product's quality. Should we take it as fact? Absolutely not, but I do think it's incredibly insightful when it comes to understanding how audiences feel about a piece of media generally. Now, there's two necessary components. The first is popularity, and the second is quality, which both apply to Frieren. This show is done really well. Everything from the music, writing, world building, directing, and animation is top notch. I think you can compare it to the best of the best when it comes to things like color theory and art style. But that's not the only factor that has led to Frieren's new reign. In reality, things like recency bias are incredibly important, because this show has the opportunity to be built off of the shoulders of giants. It's fresh in the viewer's minds, and more than anything, it hasn't had as many chances to mess up. But coming back to the first component I mentioned, which was popularity, for any show to maintain a top position, it needs to be relatively approachable. And while I do love shows like Ping Pong the Animation, and I wouldn't change much about anything they've done, their lack of approachability gets in the way of widespread mainstream popularity. And this definitely isn't even a bad thing. I love niches. That's actually what I'm trying to do here. And while it feels like they were very purposeful in the way they created that show, it is a little bit sad that it took me so long to find and then give it a chance. Which I think kind of leads to one of the reasons people dislike popular products. Because often there can actually kind of be a meta answer, something completely unrelated to the show itself. For example, someone's love of Ping Pong the Animation can lead to frustration that others aren't giving it a shot. So whenever they see popular anime that they think is significantly worse than this underappreciated piece of media, that comparison boils into frustration.
I mean, at that point, you just need to just talk about how good the anime that you like is. Just be like, yeah, Sword Art Online, cool. But have you guys seen this? This right here? This right here is the GOAT. That's what you got to do. Not say Sword Art Online, man. This is shit. This is trash. I mean, you watch this, but you can't watch this great piece of media, this gem right here. You see the difference? It's how you approach and how you talk about things that get people interested. If you put one thing down to prop something else up, you're going to immediately have conflict with the people that already like the thing that you're trying to put down. So it's okay for you to say something like, "Oh yeah, Sword Art Online, cool, but have you seen this?" That might get people more interested. So everybody that's talking about, "Oh, you haven't seen this, you haven't seen that." Well, if you're going to compel people to watch it, you might want to not shit on everything else to try and prop that thing up. Food for thought.
It's easier to hate something that's popular when you compare it to something you love that isn't getting the attention you think it deserves. But there are also other meta factors, like identity. If a fan base for a popular series is cringe, you aren't going to want to associate with it. Independent of all the
True.
crazy things going down with Rick and Morty, the fan base in some ways ruined it first. So in an
They
interesting way,
sure did,
popular
bro.
media comes with a lot of baggage, because there are so many things beyond shows that influence your perspective of it. Which leads nicely into the next point, which is that saturation can ruin anything. Too much exposure to a good product will inevitably
Yes,
kill it, especially if that exposure is forced. People have grown to hate Hamilton and Frozen, both of which are products I initially enjoyed, and that frustration
because
makes a
they're
lot of sense
everywhere.
to me because they were so
Damn.
oversaturated. There was no avoiding it, so when you inevitably got annoyed, you have to deal with constant exposure to something that you now dislike. And that's not even accounting for the people that didn't really like it in the first place. There's
No.
widespread popular memes making fun of bands like Nickelback and Imagine Dragons, and while I don't think the music is outstanding, I do think the main reason they're hated, significantly more than the music they make, is because of how prevalent their music is. It's everywhere. There's a pretty good chance that even if you enjoy my videos, even if you feel like my analysis is insightful and thoughtful, if you were overexposed to them, it could very quickly start feeling like it was pompous and condescending. Hell, you might feel that way now, and I
Yeah, it's
kinda get
like
it.
it kind of feels like force feeding. It's like, whoa, you know what's best for me? You want to show off this piece of art that's so good, you just have to spread it to everybody. Bro, you're gonna rub people the wrong way, 100%.
It. But also, I like talking about things, so,
But yeah,
hopefully people don't
do
feel that
your
way.
thing, bro.
But the
Do your
point is,
thing.
oversaturation can ruin anything, even the best products. But I think ultimately one of the main contributing factors as to why people dislike popular things is because of expectations. There's that really famous quote that expectations are the bane of enjoyment, said by, I don't know, so I should listen to it. But the point being that
Expectations are the bane of enjoyment, huh? Yeah, I used to have this quote, if you never get excited, you'll never be disappointed. So, yeah. I think it's true.
If you come into any piece of media with high expectations, you'll raise the floor significantly on what's acceptable, and the ceiling will be less impressive. Because ultimately, people are going to dislike things. Not all art is going to resonate. And when you feel disconnected from a piece of media but everyone else seems to like it, it's really hard to manage those emotions. We're incredibly susceptible to social pressures, and we want to
Yeah,
feel
social
secure and
creatures.
not feel
Yeah.
very crazy for having opinions that vary from the general perception.
I mean, for some people, for others, it's just like a Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? Like, Ghost in the Shell is the greatest anime ever made. Point blank. Period. There is nothing better, right? I can do the same thing. Like, and of course, there's going to be people that disagree, and that's okay. They're wrong.
I think primarily these factors and
uh,
many others.
I'm playing with the what do they call? What do you call them? The unicorn? Not the unicorn, but the snowflake. Whatever y'all call them. The people that get super sensitive over somebody else's opinion.
Smaller
Those
ones
people.
contribute
I
to a
like
lot of
playing with
people
those people.
disliking popular media. It creates this pendulum effect where often things that are too popular will inevitably burn out. But sometimes popular art has staying power. So while not all good media is popular, and not all popular media is good, some
True.
things are good at being popular, while others are so good they are popular.
That's
Man,
also
that
true.
was a mouthful.
Nah,
But let
that's
me
a bar,
explain,
bro.
why
You
is pop
spitting it.
music so often criticized for being bland and uninteresting? I like using this real world market example from one of my
Bro, I didn't even know pop music was like still popular. Ha, get it?
organizational strategy classes in college. We looked at the beer industry and found that as people got better at making popular beer like Bud Light and Miller Lite, there became bigger niches and bubbles for people to establish specialty beers like brewing companies. Because if the singular goal of a product is to be as widespread as possible, inevitably the focal point will stop being about what makes the product good and it will change to how can we prevent the product from being bad. And
Yes.
very often those two things
Those are
actually have
big.
overlap. As much as I hate IPAs, the flavor is why people like them. Stouts
Yes.
are incredibly divisive. While some love it, others will avoid it at all costs. If you were to buy beer for a party with people you don't know very well, you would lean towards the generalist beer because
Exactly. You will lean towards what most people enjoy. Same thing when it comes to music. Before we found out Drake was a fucking weirdo, right? If you were to go anywhere or go to any party and you're a DJ and you don't know what people like, to try and fill out the vibe, you play Drake because Drake is so prevalent. He's in every style, every genre. Does that mean Drake is good? No, but he's everywhere and he's prevalent. He has enough fame and he has enough songs that it could fit almost any vibe. And then once you use Drake as a filler, you can then spin off into other things. Yeah, 100%, man. 100%.
it's safe. Because if people's goals are to access as big of a market share as possible, it'll inevitably lead to a nondescript, uninsulting product, which will be pretty bland. But not all popular
But it's better to be bland than to be hated.
things are mid. Some great pieces of media are underappreciated, but there are also others that are greatly appreciated. I love Billie Eilish's music, and I don't think what she's doing is bland. That's why I think a lot of people don't enjoy it. But you can look at things like The Beatles, or coming full circle, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. They're good and popular. But the thing about making a good product that is popular is it's incredibly hard to replicate. Making something that is good is hard enough, but understanding what will and won't resonate with audiences is a whole different, incredibly difficult challenge. So while good and popular is the ideal, so many brands chase bland products because it's more reliable.
They try and go for popular. It's easier to go for popular than to go for good, to be honest. Because when you try and go for good, you might end up alienating people because what you might think is good, others do not. So if you go with what's popular, you have a better chance of monetarily becoming successful.
So coming full circle, I obviously love Frieren. Hell, I'm making a whole
Mm,
series about it. But funny
mm.
enough, I didn't actually like the pilot. And if it weren't for my roommate pushing for us to watch it together, I would have taken a long time to actually come back to it, which I understand is not the general experience.
Ooh, that looks
That's
cool.
part of the reason I made the 3 episode,
Okay, y'all do me a favor.
which I understand is
Tell me what episode this is, and I'll check out the series starting from here. I am not the type of person to start from beginning to end. I personally like knowing stuff ahead of time. So seeing this Goliath of a beast, I'm immediately interested in checking this out. But only this because I feel like if your art is good, I could judge it from any scene. So if this is, let's say the Titanic, right? Because it's one of the most popular, most greatest movies, blah, 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 right? If you just open up any scene from the Titanic, if the product itself is like super amazing, then whatever that scene is, it should be impactful. It should be enjoyable. And even if that scene isn't amazing, right? It's not the scene people watch the show or the movie or the show or whatever for, right? People mostly watch the Titanic for what? The scene where he's holding the girl up on the boat, the scene where the dude is dying in the water, the scene where they hit the iceberg, right? There are multiple the scenes, but there are multiple scenes within the movie itself that are enjoyable to their own extent. So I don't need to see that the climax, right? I don't need to see the big scene for me to enjoy a product. So whatever part that this is from, I'll check this out. I'll hear whatever this thing has to say if it speaks. I'd like to hear the dynamic. What is the philosophy behind them going against such a beast, right? And then from there, I can decide whether or not the show is for me.
Not the general experience. That's part of the reason I made the 3 episode rule video just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that I saw this video when I was like looking through. I was like, oh, the 3 episode rule. Like, sure. I mean, I guess you could definitely use that rule. But for me, not necessarily.
Because it took 3
Everybody
episodes
is
for me to
different.
really be sold on the show. Now,
Mm.
in retrospect, I hold the pilot in high regard. I think it's incredibly well done, and I understand why it resonates with people so much. But I do think the fact that it didn't initially appeal to me is kind of a perfect example of the whole point of this video. While I obviously think that Frieren is very well done, and even some of that was apparent right from the start, I didn't enjoy the pilot because it didn't resonate with me. In a lot of videos I've made, I've argued that the main purpose of art is to emotionally resonate. And while we can analyze the parts of art that side more towards the objective to better understand why art does or doesn't resonate with people, it will always be this enigmatic mishmash of factors that determines whether or not a piece of art resonates with any individual. I mean, any person can feel completely different about a song depending on the mood
Yes,
they're in.
a
And
hundred
while
percent.
sometimes the complexity of resonance feels a bit nebulous, I don't think it's random. But I do think there's
It's
a reason
not.
why some of the best art throughout all of history is held in such high regard. I think there are products that are just generally better, but it's also okay if those products don't speak to you. When I
Yeah,
saw
a
the
hundred
16
percent.
People, I didn't really like it, but there's a
Yes,
reason so many people do. Those two
exactly.
opinions can coexist. And about the
Yes.
most objective thing we can measure in art is stats, which is why this community-based review system is valuable. It allows people to observe another factor that leans more towards the objective that'll help them make informed decisions. That's why I've spent so much time thinking about and trying to understand and talk through a My Anime List ranking.
So that's interesting. How does the My Anime List ranking go? And also, is there a variable that says like one review is more impactful than the other, right? So quick example, because everybody eats food, everybody loves food. There's this guy named Gordon Ramsay. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's one of the most popular, most important chefs in the world, right? If he eats at a burger establishment and he says this burger is good, does that mean his opinion of the burger is more important than the 10 random customers that came in and ate the burger before him? I ask this question, I preference this question because I feel like the same thing can be said for anything we like. Does the person that speaks the most, if their enjoyment is more important than the normal day-to-day bystander, does that also go into the anime critiques? Does that go into the reason why what anime is popular and why it's popular and why it's impactful? If so, I'd like to hear your response in the comments below. Let's go.
Towards the objective that'll help them make informed decisions. That's why I've spent so much time thinking about and trying to understand and talk through a My Anime List ranking. But coming back to that idea that art is made to resonate, Frieren is a show that is built around characters and their special moments, both big and small. It delicately and subtly builds towards these moments with remarkable care and execution, but a series that embraces subtlety, that's also talked about with all sorts of hype, will struggle to deliver on those great expectations.
Mm.
Frieren is a slow and deliberate show that builds towards special moments. It captures such a complex range of feelings, but to do that, it has to take its time. So if for whatever reason those highly emotional scenes miss
You
the
do have
mark
to slow
for
it down.
whoever's watching,
Yeah.
the slow pacing offers little benefit, which is what it felt like to me. For some reason,
Yeah, so slow stuff. The payoff is the emotional investment, the time investment that you sink into it, right? For other people that don't really care, It's more like, okay, let's quickly show me what you have to offer, right? I think these two things can parallel. There's a congruency somewhere, right? Like I said earlier, like the most impactful parts of like the Titanic, right? A lot of people are interested in those three things, right? The sinking of the ship, the kissing, and the holding up the woman at the front of the ship, right? All these three things are like the most impactful, most important moments that a lot of people, if they're fresh into the Titanic, you might say, hey, these are the scenes you want to pay attention to, right? But overall, if the person watching the film isn't enjoying everything from the beginning to the end, and only these couple impactful moments resonate, you know, it can lead to more of it can lead to a product that is not experienced by everybody, but for the people that really enjoy the slow build up, right? The slow moments, the takeoff of the ship to the sinking to the depths, right? That emotional investment is what makes the movie as a whole amazing. So yeah, it definitely takes time, but at the same time, there needs to be these impactful, important moments, so the people that aren't as emotionally invested or their time, they feel like their time is being wasted. They have something, whether it's a great animation, a great fight, a great whatever. You need to have something for the individuals that aren't invested emotionally.
Unlike probably most of the people who are watching this series, I didn't feel a very strong emotional connection to the pilot. I just didn't care about the characters yet, and I think that they were
Exactly.
made to seem
And how could you? It's the pilot, bro. How could you immediately be like, okay, yeah, I love this? No, it's gonna take time.
at first
Unless there's something that resonates with you personally, it's gonna take time.
very generic and cardboard. I think it ultimately leads to subversion and depth, but I don't know, it just for some reason didn't work for me.
That's
Because, like I
okay.
said, resonance is a little bit nebulous at times. I
Mm,
initially wasn't drawn to come back because
okay.
everything that made Frieren easy to dislike is also what made it distinct and special. The show to me felt so singular. It's doing something that I haven't really seen before, while also being deeply in touch and embracing so many of the tropes and norms it's subverting. And I feel like Frieren is just an outstanding show. And because of that, not despite it, I think lots of people have a great reason to hate it.
Mm.
Thanks for checking out the 10th video and exploring Frieren. If you've been
So basically, the reason why people don't like Frieren is because it's slow and they don't resonate with the characters, or they don't resonate with whatever's going on in the story. Okay. I mean, if that's the reason why people hate it, it sounds like superficial hate, and it sounds like, yeah, there's a reason why that this show's the GOAT, one of the greatest animes of all time, if not the greatest anime of all time. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. I really enjoyed making this. Shout out to K Talks Anime. Subscribe just like that. Boom! Hit the bell icon. We're gonna have more videos like this coming to you guys. And yeah, join the Discord down below if you want me to like dissect other anime analysts or any type of analyst at all. I have no issues doing it. But yeah, join the Discord, drop your video in the video request, and I'll get to it when I can. I'll see you guys on the next one. Y'all be safe. Enjoy your Sunday or whenever you're watching this. Have a great day. Bye bye.